I previously worked with a company called Fitbit, and worked there for a year and a half, and then left to do full-time freelancing. And please don't ask me hard questions.
Hi, my name is Tim. I'm originally from Belgium, started out as a freelance web designer, then moved to the US, joined Goala, where I focused more on mobile design. After Goala got bought by Facebook, I joined Instagram, and now I'm at Facebook.
I'm Josh from Orange County. I haven't worked at Twitter, Google, Facebook, or any of these cool companies, but for the past 3 years, I've worked on a product called My Energy, and it's a design over there, obviously. And now I work for a company called Nest Labs.
So, I'm going to talk super slow because my wife told me that I have a strong accent, and I want you guys to understand what I'm saying. So my name is Julien, I'm from Paris, and I work at Mixpanel. I've been working there like for a year, and before that I worked at a company called Poki in San Diego, and before that I was like freelancing. And I just launched a side project with a Drew called Juicy, which is like a community of, it's a private community of designers, where you can just share like the job inquiries you have, so other talented designer can just take on the jobs.
Awesome, thank you. So if anybody has any questions, raise your hand and we'll get this thing started. So anything's up for grabs. It's a design panel, so they're going to talk to you about design. So who wants to go first? Nobody, okay. I will start it off. All right. Any of you guys can take this, and multiple of you can take this. What brought you into the design realm, where you're at right now, and like, what came in your life? Like, what brought you into this design realm? So, anybody wants to go?
So my route was kind of interesting. Growing up in high school, I was in bands, and so I kind of drew band logos, and then that kind of adapted into, hey, I want to make clothing and shirts for our bands. I had no artistic skills, so drawing kind of sucked, but I was, had Photoshop at my hand, so I tried to mess with that. Then for real work, I shifted into architecture for a while. Had dreams of being a professional baseball player too, so went to college for that, and then as you can see, wasn't in the plans for me, seeing as coaches knew what this was going to become a lot quicker than I did. Turns out there's a lot of educational things you need to know for architecture, and that didn't excite me very much. So I was kind of, unfortunately, a dropout for a while. And then my wife had basically said, my girlfriend at the time said, you better do something with your life. And she went and signed me up for a design school because she knew I liked to play in Photoshop. And that's kind of where it kicked off my interest because I had nothing else to do. And so I went back there, and it was kind of more pressured by my girlfriend at the time to step into it and take a chance on it. And it ended up working really well, I guess. I ended up loving it, and turned out you can make some money off of it and actually live off of it, so it ended up being good.
Anyone else want to go?
Well, for me, it started like, I think in 2008, actually, because back in France, I had like with two friends, we started like to create like a product, a web product. And I had like some bases in Photoshop, but it was more for fun before. I was in a business school, so I learned marketing and business. And I always enjoyed, I never knew if I wanted to become a designer or like something else, because at that time, especially in Europe, I don't think like the job of designers was like as hype as it is today. And we didn't have like that many startups or companies, where it was like really cool to work for. So, and we built that product, and we needed a designer, so I had to start somewhere. And I remember being inspired by that guy actually right here in the middle, and here I am today. So, yeah, it was a great story. Yeah. And I guess what I'm trying to say, I guess anybody can, if you really love design, I guess you don't need to go to a design school, obviously, to to learn it. You know, like if you really love it and you really need to learn, and there's there's nothing that can stop you. I think. There. Did you guys understand any word of what I just said? Or?
That's actually interesting. Like, how many people in here didn't finish school? Yeah, that's what I expected, kind of. My segue into design was, does anyone remember the Nokia 3310? All right, so they had this cool feature where you could send little pixelated images to other people that had the same phone. And I love to, like, I got fascinated by it. I found a Windows app where you could draw them. And through that, like, I started creating my own icons from, like, I took a company logo. I was like, okay, how can I translate this logo, this high-res logo, into a low-res pixelated thing? Found a guy who had a site that actually sold them. Like, you paid the price of a text message, and it would send it to your phone. And he taught me how to update the site and get my own little icons on there. And from there on, I was like, I was fascinated by the fact that a single person could put up a website, something that anyone in the entire world could visit. And that was the start.
Cool. My story is pretty boring. Just to warn you, I started computer science major, which is unexpected. So I sucked at it. I hated it. So I wanted to change my major within like a semester. I didn't know what I wanted. My academic advisor was like, well, we're just starting this new major called interactive media. I'm like, cool, that sounds good. So I started, and it sticks. You know, just I've been designing since then. And I did some like photography and stuff. So it's I guess like I can tell I've always been into visually appealing things and capturing things. And so it just I guess it was a good bridge for me to move from photography to design. And then I realized, you know, I have an uncle living in San Francisco. I'm like, hey, free lodging, nice. So I moved to San Francisco, and like, this is amazing. Like, all the people that I now look up to is, you know, they live here, and they create products, and they design things, and I wanted to become one of them. So.
Right on. So I'm going to open up again. Does anybody have any questions? Just raise your hand.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm just wondering, I've been designing websites for a while as well, and I noticed how the discipline as a web designer or UI designer is becoming more specialized, so you're becoming more of a app designer or mobile designer, or still do a lot of web apps. I'm just wondering how over the last few years, how your job has changed, and whether you like that change, whether you appreciate specifying or specializing into one section or one area, and yeah, how maybe that will be, how, over the next few years, how that will continue to change. Does that make sense?
Well, I think that today designers actually have to know more than UI. Like, for instance, like, I feel like, like, I wanted to develop for a while to implement my own design, because I always felt like, it was so hard, like, to get it like pixel perfect. And then I just realized that there's so much more things like in design that you gotta learn to keep up with, like, all the talented people out there. Like, you have to know how to make icons, and now you have to know how to make an iPhone app, and now you have to know how to make an iPad app, and even you have to know, like, how to make an Android app. So so I think, like, to answer to your question, I think you do need, like, to always keep up, like, and it makes you a better designer, to be honest. Like, like, I never knew how to draw an icon or anything, and I think I'm getting better. I'm getting better, but it makes me feel like I'm a better designer as a person. Like I don't have to ask someone else to do it. I can do it the way I see it. And I think it's really important as a designer to be able, like, to when you have a vision, to be able, like, to do it from A to Z, and not have to ask someone else to come and step in and, like, do it for yourself. And like, so that's my take on it. But.
So, add a little bit to that. A way I like to look at in the design mind is, like, what we're designing for is really the end result, is really the people behind it, or the whatever it may be behind it, and that's always changing and shifting. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of adapt in different ways. If you're kind of drilled into your sequence and what you're doing in your process and narrow that down, I think you start to lose the ability to see the end person, because everything else around us is always changing and always, becoming something new. And so if we're not able to kind of adapt to that and bring that in and allow ourselves to understand and look through those processes of what people are doing beyond just our task, then it does narrow us down a little bit. Not saying that you can't be really driven and excel really good at one thing and be totally fine off, because there are people excelling beyond belief and doing really well, but there's an opportunity there, I think, for you to tap into many different things by just studying the people you're actually designing for and the things you're designing for.
Seems like it's getting harder and harder to actually keep an eye on everything rather than specialize on one thing and try to do that really well.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to understand yourself too a little bit. Some people will be able to adapt and learn things well, and then you have to know your strong points. As much as we all want to be able to do everything and do great in a lot of things, you really have to take the time to understand yourself and what you can do, and really pursue that.
So I think I have a different take on it too. Like, I agree with almost what all of you guys are saying, but at the same time, like, how our brains work is they connect dots, right? They connect things that we think. And if you don't think something, so that's basically a different branch of design. So if I don't design for mobile devices, there's no way of learning that, and there's no way of knowing what that is going to connect to another medium. So I don't know, I guess like technology is going towards bigger screens and TVs or sort. So if I'm not interested in mobile design, and if I'm not interested in, let's say, touchscreen devices, I can't really connect that to an iPad, or I can't really connect that to one day when our phones are going to be the remote control for our TVs. So it's very much like connecting dots and sort of figuring out what you really want. And I don't think I've found what I really want to do yet, and I don't think any of you guys found what you want to do. You know what you're doing right now, and you probably, a lot of you guys, or all of you guys, are really talented and know what you're doing, but it's really hard to know what you haven't done yet. So it's good to just keep an eye open and not to be that old grumpy man who doesn't like change, right?
Yeah, I think that that kind of defines what the main strength is of a good designer, and just being flexible. Like, the world is constantly going to be changing for eternity, and if you don't know how to adapt to something, you'll be stuck at some old platform, not knowing anything. And it's also important, like, you don't have to specialize in everything, but you need to understand, like Kerem said, what else is out there. You can be an excellent web designer, but your website can be unusable on an iPad because, like, the tappable targets are too small. So just like specializing in one thing and knowing how to optimize it for other platforms, I think is a good strength as a designer.
Any other questions?
I was wondering if you guys could talk a bit about kind of design and user experience and together, and that as a consideration as you're designing, like maybe having to make compromises in aesthetics for user experience, and kind of how you guys balance that.
I'll take it. And I might offend some people here as well. So I'll give you a little of my what I studied, so maybe that might make sense. So when I studied interactive design, interactive media, which covered from two-dimensional things to 3D objects, and 3D design to video graphics, and a bunch of different things, and web design and graphic design being two of them. So this gave me the thought of, when I design something, I want to design it. And design is not really the visual design that we're looking for, or just the user experience, or just the UI, or the buttons, or this or that. Design is how something works. And I just can't wrap my mind around, being a designer and not thinking about the UX. So I know, you don't have to really specialize in UX, and there are really UX specialists, and these people really do specialize in UX. But as a designer, and I call myself a designer. Like, I don't call myself a UI designer or a product designer or whatever designer you want to call. There are billions of them. It's just, I find it hard to believe that if you're designing a user interface, you're not thinking the user experience. Because it's, after all, everything is about the experience. What you're designing is experience. When they're designing this glass, it is the experience. How you're holding it and the thickness of the glass, or the heat that's going to be going through, or the temperature. So everything is the experience. And maybe you don't have to specialize, but I think you have to consider, you have to think, and you have to grow in that area. Because otherwise you're just designing blind. You don't know what you're designing for.
I think also in the end, making something pretty is the easiest part of design. It's all about the user experience. It's all about making sure the main thing you're looking at is the content. The content comes first, then how the user experiences it, and then in the end you make it pretty.
Yeah. That.
I
No,
had
yeah, go
I had a question that's like kind of similar. So you often hear design is about problem solving, like in quotes, like that's what people always say, right? Does that mean that, and it also means that making things that are complex, it means making them simple or approachable, right? So you have this problem, and you design it so that way the end user can interact with it in an easy way. When can design not be all about problem solving and fixing things? Can it be about expression, or is that only art?
All right. I have this theory that an app or a website can be a tool, or it can be almost like a gimmick. Not a gimmick is the wrong word for it, but think like weather apps, or like all the widget apps you can see on the iPhone. They're very much not over designed, but the design confers and it's very expressive. While on the other side, you have tools, and again with tools, the design should almost be invisible. As soon as someone notices the design, it means you did something wrong. And it's a balance. It's a graph actually. Like how many, like if you want people to use your app or website for multiple hours a day, the design should like almost not be there. It's still a lot of work to make sure that people don't notice it. Then on the other end, if you do something like that, something that people will open once a week for a couple of minutes, go crazy. And does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I guess so.
So I think a lot of I think a way you can work in expression, and I'll kind of translate that or transform it into another word, is exploration in a way. And you have an opportunity. So if you use like your opportunity or desires to kind of explore different things and want to express them in new ways, like that's an opportunity to bridge exploration processes and think about things in a new way. The deliverable might not be something that's, needs to ship out or needs to be used by 100 people, but to take the opportunity to try to think about things from a different perspective, as an just not thinking about that way, I think you can result in new types of solutions. And I think, the thing about expression is you're trying to drive some type of emotions or some type of connections in new ways. So I think that's totally free to do within the process of, solving different problems and trying to open up different types of solutions.
Do you guys think that the word design is often used interchangeably and on accident with art, and especially like with a lot of the showcase websites, I should say?
I mean, I think it is. I don't see a problem with it. I mean, I don't see any need to define design at all. I think everyone has tasks and goals, and it's kind of formulated by the individual and what your process is and what you're trying to accomplish. Like, there's no reason to define an industry or define like what we do by one word, because that doesn't make any sense.
We sort of are all designing things, right? Even the web developers, they're designing their code. They're being creative with their code, and it's hard to really like. I used to think when I was a student, as you know, I studied art and a bunch of really expressionist stuff. And when I think of it, I always thought design is functional art. But now I'm thinking it's not really. Because everything, like function almost is the same word as design. Like we just don't know what we're designing. But in general, what we're designing, I know this is not making sense at all right now. I'm going down. But it's just design, when we think about it, we just think about the visuals, right? Or when you say the design of this glass, people are going to look like, oh, cool, you know, it's the color or the material. But it's a lot more than that. It's the thought behind it. And I think I'm pretty hopeful, actually, and especially where I am right now in San Francisco, people are realizing, companies are realizing, it's not only about design. It's not only about engineering. It's not only about visual. It's design is something that sort of wraps everything around and makes a product work. And I agree with Josh. I think it's like I don't feel the need to sort of like describe what I do, even though like I do need to describe what I do 99% of the world, 99% of the world, except Silicon Valley probably. But it is like we are going to realize, and at some point it's going to come to a conclusion like, okay, so design is what we do in general. Like people are going to think about design, and people are going to think about how to solve things or how to even express themselves with design. So, sorry.
I got a question for Kerem. Do you think that design is something in between art and building something? Like a real skill, like people who build houses, and on the other side you have artists. Do you think our job is somewhere in the middle, moving from one point to the other and back?
I think so. So a part of design too, so let's not get into visual design, but a part of design is also taste. And every one of us have that taste. We just don't know how to either express it or we just don't want to practice it. But obviously us designers who studied or didn't study, who learned design, we are expressing our taste. So I feel like there is a level of art in what we do, but I don't think I can call what I do designing interfaces as art. And I say this also as a half photographer too. And you do photography too. Like when I do photography, when I look from the viewfinder, I think that's art. Because I feel like what I put in my viewfinder is something, it's very different. It's very abstract from what other people do. But when you design an interface, you know, you can still be pretty abstract and you can still, you know, experiment with it. But after all, it's a part of like a math. Like you're solving a solution, or you're solving a problem. And it's not really, art is not the answer to your problem, to my problems when I'm designing interfaces.
So there's a difference between functional design and artsy design. It's like building a hammer or building something you hang on your wall because it's pretty.
True, but I think everything comes to also functionality as well, unless like you're looking at paintings or photography, right? Like when you design something, when you design an object or when you design a website or an iPhone app, it comes down to the interaction. It comes down to the communication, and then you can call communication as art as well. So I think what everyone is doing in this room, we're trying to communicate. You know, we're trying to communicate how our iPhones work and how that little device can talk to a human being, and how I can make my wife, who's not tech savvy, understand how to interact with this device. So if you call communication art, I think we are all artists. I don't know. Are we getting too deep here? Or?
Wouldn't you say they go hand in hand? Because didn't you notice kind of how people stopped designing for expression, and design kind of took a turn, and now majority of the websites look exactly alike because they spend so much time designing for designers instead of taking that time to explore a variety of it and design for expression. And now it's just, all right, I'm going to do this because this looks good, and I mean it works for everyone else, so it's got to work for me, right?
I think it's sort of our job as designers and developers to push that away from. So like a lot of people work with frameworks. Developers work with frameworks, and now designers work with frameworks too, right? We work with grid systems that has been used and proved that has been proven that works. But it also is our job to, whether or not you're a junior designer, senior designer, art director, whatever you are, to push people in your company or in your team to understand how experimenting and how you can find something that works even better. And I'm not really against frameworks, but I think it is killing some of the creativity in both developers and designers at the same time. But again, like I use it, my website is built on frameworks, and it's fast, and you want to get results fast, and you want to produce something. So it sort of works for that, but not for creativity.
Yeah, I think your last statement of saying, we basically shifted into a mode of like the ship it mode. Like that's the era we're in, is just get it out the door. And so we're looking for ways to speed up the efficiency process, which is, we've limited our, opportunities to, explore different options and different solutions. But, they're not saying, there's definitely tons of people and tons of companies that are doing this, but, these framers are given the opportunity for the people to, live up to this, hey, get it out the door, see what happens. But, I think there's definitely, coming from where I was for the past 3 years, it was a patience. Like that, if there's number one thing I can learn coming out of this, patience. And what we had to do was sit back and learn, and we were tackling new challenges that, none of us had experience in, taking. And if you have the opportunity to not ship it and learn kind of before you learn as much as you can, I think there's a lot of value there too. But it just depends on the situation you're in. That's kind of driving where we're going as a whole. So
it's interesting that you mentioned that a lot of designers are trying to just impress other designers, because that's about ego, and I think as a designer, the more experience you get, the more you learn that it's not about ego. It's about how do I ship a high quality product in a short time. You can spend a year making it perfect, or you ship it after the first month, and then you keep iterating it depending on what feedback you get from the people who are actually using it. I think I love Dribble and everything around it, but sometimes people focus too much on like how many likes can I get for this, even though they post something that you could never ship it. It's unscalable, unfeasible. In the end, it's still a good community and still a good place to get feedback. But I agree, this problem is there, and I hope a lot of people will address it soon.
So I also think about the Dribble. Sorry, I'm going to start a fight. And those people, they experiment with interfaces. Like, hey, I redesigned Facebook, or I redesigned LinkedIn. So that's not a bad thing. I think most of them are doing it for exposure that they're getting, and for some of them, it's actually for freelancers that's like making money, and some people don't have enough exposure. So I also think it's a little bit of practicing, a little bit of exposure, but I agree. Like I would rather practice on something smaller, not like redesigning Facebook maybe, but take an app from the App Store and redesign that, not visually, but see how you can make that better. Like my personal, one of the things that I've done, projects that I've done, the Windward app. So the whole story behind it is, I wanted to make a better app for tide levels. I know it's not so much fun, but I wanted that because I wanted that to exist. So I went to the App Store and I found this app who, they actually had all this information. And I wanted to make it so much better because it was so obvious that, the person who's developed that app has no idea what he was doing. He did put all the information there, but, with no sense of how to visualize information, how to think about the user experience, and how to make the product work. So it is also important, just don't set your expectations way too high to redesign a huge website with insane level of interaction and complicated problems. Do something less complicated, and you can practice with that, but also you can actually maybe solve the problem and ship it on your own and maybe make something a lot better. I think that has more possibility in your end.
I also think that a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to ship a product and how complex it is. And again, it's easy to make something pretty. It's easy to take something and redesign it and then put it on Dribbble. And yes, it looks amazing, but you don't know all the underlying stories, all the underlying problems the people had to face. And another issue is people just don't have any respect. They're like, this app has the worst design ever. I'm going to redesign it. And then the guy or the girl who actually designed it, they feel offended because they know what went on. Like they went through hell to actually ship it. And then some young kid comes along and they're like, look at this. And yeah, so I think it's okay. Like you can take an app, you can redesign it for exposure to build your portfolio if you don't have any other projects going on. But just make sure you show respect to the people who actually built the product in the first place.
I agree.
Any other questions?
The work we're doing is changing a lot faster than the tools are. So what tools do you feel are missing today for doing the work we have to do?
I think the main missing one right now is interaction and animations. Although it's something pretty new, I think more and more apps are gonna use this. And people use Quartz Composer. People use the new framework called Framer. And you kind of have to hack your way around mocking up an interaction these days. I often go to Keynote and just use those transitions to show developers like, okay, this thing has to move that way, scale that way, and I get all the timing right, and I give it to them. But other stuff, there's just no way, and you need to discuss it with your developers. And like, okay, what are the possibilities? What can we do? What can't we do? So there's no real good app around that, but people are starting to build them. So I'm happy to see what's going to happen in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's a good question because us at Mixpanel, especially because we work, like the designers work from home and the developers work in San Francisco. And I think what's missing today is like what Tim said, like for us when we work with developers, it's really hard to convey what we want as an animation. You have to either look on the web to find like something similar and show them this is exactly what I want, But other than that, like even when you show for instance, like the process is we show our work and if we have to redesign the home page or features page and we have in mind like some transition or even like a hover on the button, like something so simple like that. And we want to have a nice transition like for the hover or like the press. It's really hard today. I think like there's like a lot of missing tools for those kind of things, like where you can interact with the developer and make it easy for him to understand exactly what you want. For like like when the site's gonna be pushed live, and because today like what I do is like I kind of like I don't know if you guys saw the video from EFI where like Anton is actually like saying like the process like he's actually like making videos of his screen where like he explained everything on the video, like, and he just activate like a button and stuff, and it's kind of old school, like I mean you have to watch like the whole video, like so, but it's a nice way to do it today, I think. So yeah, I think like there's definitely a gap here, like to have a better communication between designers and developers. Yeah.
I think we need more weather apps. No, kind of coming from a different perspective is, my process, we do a lot of prototypes, so like we're hands-on with developers and engineers from the very beginning, so that process isn't as big for us. But where we kind of seem to hit a dilemma is during this kind of first build process, we're missing the communication with people who don't understand what we're building that are on our team. And kind of, there's tracking tools and project management tools that we're trying to use, but being able to give them inside looks of where we're at within a certain process of initial builds, and so they can get a better understanding, I think is a need that I've kind of found in the teams I've worked on. Is it's a lot of manual management of trying to show where we are, show the time spans of what we're building, and projections. And I don't know if there's something out there that can give a overscope of what we're doing would be nice.
It's all about using whatever you can do. Like, it's either sitting together with your developers on the about the interactions. One thing we do, well, one thing we have to do is we use the Facebook groups, and we basically post everything in it, like everything we're working on, even the technical things. So people who work on the community team, work in business, whatever, they're constantly up to date with whatever we're doing, and we try to explain it in as human as possible.
Yeah.
So there's an open communication within the team, and no one feels like they're being left out.
Can I ask 2 questions? Oh, okay. First, I'm going to do a short question, and then I kind of want to pose like a discussion, I guess. Kerem, besides using iDrop, how do you build these wonderful palettes? I'm a color-challenged individual, but you always have these palettes that are absolutely amazing. So first, how do you go about building those palettes? And then the discussion I want to pose is a question of process. So if you have a new challenge, a new design brief, how do you guys go about it? Do you do mood boards? Where do you get inspired? What's your process for getting started?
So it's an awesome question as a color nerd. So I took a lot, and this is probably not the answer, but I took a lot of color theory classes in school, but you don't have to go to school to take these classes. So color theory exists, and it's all around you right now. It's important as a designer to see color instead of look at color. What I do for like inspiration, I say this to everyone, but like I just look around. I walk around, and when I see the sidewalk yellow matching with the dark gray and it looks awesome, I take a picture. And when I go home, I just label them and I just put them in a folder. And this might be a little too much overkill, but I like color. That was the reason we built that iDrop Me app on the iPhone app, which is free. Everyone should download it. But yeah, I think it's just realizing where the inspiration is. And I think from your talk, the inspiration is not, it's the energy that you need to project towards. So you need to sort of project that and think about color a little bit. It's not something, like you're not really coloring a book. You can use color for so many things. It's very powerful. I guess that sort of answers. But I love color. I love mood boards. They're great. And I know a lot of branding people who are in this room. For example, Bill, sitting there, Bill Escani. He does a lot of really amazing color palette work. And it's great. I don't know. Like I probably don't have the answer for it, but that's what I do, and I try to see everything as inspiration. And I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, I think the real world is definitely a great source of inspiration. Something I used to do was whenever I came across a photo I really liked, like that had a lot of beautiful colors, I would save it, open it in Photoshop, and kind of pick my 5 favorite colors out of that photo, like the colors that really make the photo work as one whole. And I use that as a starting point whenever I need a color palette. Like I have a whole folder filled with multiples of those, and then you can just go browse through it and pick whatever you think fits best for the project you're currently doing.
Also cooler, Adobe just pushed their iPhone app, which is fantastic. So I would recommend that. It blows iDrop Me away, so whatever.
Yeah, to me the colors, like I don't have I think most of the time I just play with it. It depends on the service. But for instance, Mixpanel, if you look at the colors, we were trying to convey something fun. We wanted to have to make people feel like, okay, an analytic tool can be fun, and you just I just play around. I never really I'm not like Tim or Kerem looking at photography and stuff. I'm mostly inspired by I'm mostly inspired by the web. I play around, and after they said something earlier that was very interesting. It's just a question of taste as well. If you ask someone two different persons to design a website, the exact same thing. Like they would come up with like totally different colors, you know, like, and it's just a question of taste at the end, like, and that's the way I do it. Yeah, it's just like I have taste, and I try like to just experiment like colors. You go in Photoshop and I select 2 or 3, 4, 5 colors, and if it looks good, I'm going for it. It's just the way it goes.
What was your second question?
A question of process.
Oh, gosh, for me, it's always different, I think. It kind of depends on either A, the team I'm working on, or the stage or whatnot. But like I mentioned earlier, for me and most of the teams I work on, we're early stage as soon as we can get into some type of prototype. So that really, I mean, that's like same day, if not next day stuff of where, you know, we're trying to figure out what the problem is and what a potential solution is, and that's, you know, just a quick write down of a note, a sketch, whatever it may be, a whiteboard, and we're in, you know, some type of code the first day to start feeling out what it looks like in some type of interactive way, even if it's ugly, even if it's, you know, bare bones. We're trying to see it in its natural environment as soon as we can, and then from there we're able to start identifying either the scope of it, what really needs to happen out of a quick, you know, black and white HTML JavaScript prototype, and kind of start designating tasks throughout a whole team. And it, you know, goes from, you know, like a back-end team could start identifying, you know, what type of data needs to be translated, and then our front-end and design team can start, you know, start their exploration process after kind of seeing, you know, some type of interactivity. But I don't know even if that answered your question at all. I have no idea.
Actually, for me, like the process, I worked like, so I started like in 2008, and when I started, I was like, I think like, I want to say that loud because I'm sure like a lot of us like started like that. I was inspired, but I was like also like trying like to copy some guys that I really loved, and I wasn't selling the work that I was doing. I was just trying to do it because that's the style and I loved, and I wanted to see like, you know, like if I could do it, and that's how I started designing. After when I had a client, I was like, you know, stealing an idea from here, from there, and stuff, and I learned how to change because, you know, like. The truth is like it was so time consuming to not even think, you know, like first, like you know, like design that thing and you don't think first, you don't set up and, okay, I'm gonna try to see like what I can do to make it like very good. And like what I learned with those years is like, what I do now, my process right now is every time I design anything, there's 3 things that I always strive like to excel. It's the layout of the site, which is to me like one of the most important things, the layout. The colors that we talked about, and the typography. If I think you can get like those really well, you get like a killer website. Like seriously, like a killer website. Like I don't know if you guys saw the site called Escape Flight. Do you guys know that website that came out like not even like a month ago? And like I was just like amazed by that website. Do you guys know that website? Escape Flight. No? It's a guy from if you guys on internet you can go and check it out. It's a guy like it's called like Claudio, I think, the guy from EFI used to work at EFI, and the guy just like, I mean, if you look at the layout of the page, it's like beautiful. If you look at the colors, they're like beautiful, and the use of type is like wonderful. And like to me, like my process is very close to that. It's like I want to have like those 3 elements very well, and I think like I succeeded something. If I don't get one, if you know like the typography sucks, then the website sucks. You know, like, so I think those 3 like are the main important things that you have to consider like in the process of building a website or like a, you know, like a page.
I don't know. I agree with Josh. I think like the process changes for every project that I do, and it's. I mean, I'm constantly, now that I'm freelancing, I'm constantly looking to improve my process, and it's the constant battle because, you know, you run into this problem of, you know, do you want to be more efficient and faster, or do you want to take your time and you know, perfect things on the way, and then wait for a long time to ship your product. And I know Drew's probably hating that idea right now, but you know, it is what some people do. It's what some companies do. they perfect something, they wait until the very end, and then they ship their product, and it's gorgeous. Apple being one of them. But, or fly. I'm not crazy. Yeah, so process is, it is a constant battle of trying to optimize the process for yourself and for the project, and sort of make that bridge for the project to be successful, I guess.
I just wanted to ask you guys about how you're approaching different screen sizes and resolutions with Retina out there now too. Is that part of your normal process to just kind of go in and are you working from one size to the next, or are you approaching it per project?
I don't make websites, so I can't respond to this one.
It's very recent for me to actually, like, when you know, like I said, like when I work on the layout, I usually work on it like on a piece of paper, and I try like to actually like think about how it would look. You know, like if you think about a layout, how it would look like that layout, or like how you got to change it so it could look well on an iPhone. Actually, we started like when I just launched Juicy, you know, I told you, and I try like to make it responsive, but it's not responsive, so don't try. But yeah, it's like. I think it's new. I mean, to me, like it's kind of even a mixed panel. Like we didn't build like the website to be responsive, so I think it's kind of new for as a designer. Like you know, like to me, it's still like it feels new, and I'm trying like to really like get better at that too. But I feel it's fresh.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we keep saying, it really depends on the project at hand. For me, we basically, just because we had already had an existing site and it was easier for us to just tackle just individual screen sizes as needed and as well as we felt priority, instead of rebuilding as a responsive framework on top or for what we had. But new projects that are coming on, you know, there's definitely different strategies involved. The best solution, I don't think anyone has it at this point in time. You just have to really identify the need of what you're building. Like in your case, it's like it could have been responsive, but it's going to work. You have to get it to a certain point, and you know, if you can make it functional. There was a need for mobile, you made it functional,
Yeah.
and that works. Like, you know, so hey, you know, do what you have to do.
You're getting a workout, huh? Oh, pardon me. I'm curious to hear about any design trends or projects or new things that you guys are just excited about. You want to actually
Flat design.
celebrate, or
All
even
flat.
more? What's that?
Flat design.
Clear
is
layer styles, clear them.
Frat design?
flat.
Frat.
Because I've been really excited about frat design myself.
If you've been to the bar down the street, it's frat design. It's all it is.
So I think trends come and go, but your taste is always there. So don't be afraid of your taste, and don't be afraid of you're going to be out of the trend. You know, if you like flat design, go for it. But if you like skeuomorphic design, go for it. Who cares? It's if it's solving a problem and if it's purposeful, then I think you sort of like answer that question. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the flat design trend to go away, so we can all go back to work. But, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's about extremes. It's not either going to be flat or skeuomorphic. It's more like the website needs to represent what whoever's paying you asked for, and it's okay if your style comes through a bit, because like we're kind of artists, so that's cool. But just don't get stuck in trends. They'll make you chase something. Like it's just do whatever you feel is right, and if people keep paying you for that, then you know that you're going the right direction. So.
The one thing so yeah, I don't care what chooses. I don't have a preference in trends or whatever. But I miss like because when I take on freelance projects, there is obviously requests that come in. We love this site, make it like that, and it's like okay. But there is some satisfaction of trying to look around beyond just the web for inspiration, and I think that can drive a lot of just different, unique perspectives on the solutions you're creating. And I think with the flat design, we lose that ability a little bit in terms of like just looking at textures and walls and floors and pictures and stuff like that. So that's what I miss, and I hope it comes back.
Yeah, the
I don't
question.
have anything to say.
Oh, sorry, you're going.
No, I don't have anything to say. I love like design. I love like gradients. I love like, I don't care.
Drop the mic and leave.
I'm actually very excited about interaction nowadays. Like, I mean, if you look around, like, it's taking more and more on the web, and it's such a big, for me, it's such a big deal. Like, it just like engage users like way much more. I mean, if you look at the iPhone, like we all loved it when we saw it the first time because we saw something, an animation on the phone like we never saw before on the phone. And I love like, back in the days we had the Flash website, but I love like seeing now like site that use like modern technology to build like a very sleek animation, and I think like I think there's like it's just the beginning, I think, like for that part. Yeah.
I'm excited for thermostats as of a month ago. No, I mean, yes, I am actually. But it's the potential of new. I think we're seeing a lot of new devices and new kind of technology that coming out. That's going to just. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to kind of expand that. Beyond just our computer interfaces and designing for people in that way. Yeah, it'll be just interesting. And I think that goes back to the very first question of adaptability and where are you going to sit, and are you looking at the things you're doing as, are you excited about taking on these problems and looking at different things, or perhaps you're going to be the web guy in 2025, and hopefully that's okay still.
I think I agree with that. The mix of hardware and software is pretty interesting. Because ideally what we're doing is we're sort of transferring every analog manual thing from the world and make it digital right now. Nest being one of them. And there are a lot of devices out there that are experimenting with insane technologies, with not even with your iPhone, but with your body and how you can actually track things, how you can make changes on your body and on your health. And so it's pretty interesting, where it's going to go. And we were just talking in lunch, like I wish I could fast forward 10, 15 years to just see what's going to happen. But I think we're all in the right direction, and I think this room is going to, people like in this room, we're going to be pushing this forward. So
I'm excited that people outside our little design community are finally valuing good design, and with design I mean like making things easy to use. If you look at government websites and everything, they're horrible. They're a horrible experience, and it's almost like they make it difficult to use on purpose. But even they are finally realizing that the design comes first. Like, how can we make sure that people get through a certain flow without feeling frustrated by it? And that's going to get even better over the next couple of years. So, and I think like we all owe it to ourselves because we've been pushing for years and years to get this through, and people are finally starting to get it. So, round of applause for you.
Not the UK government though. The English government, they're fantastic. Their websites are just top notch, and I wish the US was like that.
Okay, we're just about out of time. I just wanted to ask, who are some of your guys' like design heroes? There's a lot of criticism in the design community, and there's also a lot of uplifting, right? But it's always nice when you're able to celebrate somebody else. So who are like some people that you guys look up to, even if they're in this room or not, that I don't know, that you guys like and that you can say thank you to?
If you guys haven't had a chance to meet him, Tim Van Dam. No, and I'm horrible with names to begin with, and I suck at popping people's names on. But anyone who's doing hard work, I think there's tons of people who don't, you may not know their names. I don't even know their names, but I see their work, and I see work on sites, and I think for me, it's just continuously seeing new things pop out that just keep driving me to go. Like, just keep, we all love browsing the web and looking for these inspirations and looking for that. And as long as we're all continuing to work hard and push out things, even things like off screen, like that don't even have to be digital. Like, that's super inspiring. Like, that's amazing. And just, if there's something you want to do it, execute it, and you're going to inspire a lot of people.
Fuck it, I'll drop names. Trent Walton, I love. It's a great designer, huge background. Euron Schoen, I don't know how to say his last name. Schoen. He's amazing. What else? Drew Wilson. He's good inspiration. He's an okay inspiration. But yeah, there are a lot of people. But there are a lot of people. I look up to everyone. I look up to really young designers. I was lucky enough to work with a really super junior designer, Rebecca Goldman. I worked with her for, I think, like 6 months, and she had no design background whatsoever, but her attitude, fantastic, inspired me a lot, and now she's working full-time at a company called Heyday, I think. And she's fantastic, and I think, in general, feedback is good. You guys should give feedback to each other. Not to, preach here, but, it's good, but also be, don't destruct things, be constructive and try to build up on things and try to understand people and respect people, like Tim was saying. So.
Yeah, what he said. Like, it's not about the pixels you can crank out. It's about who you are. And I'd rather work with a okay designer who's a great person to work with than the best designer I've ever met, but he's just an asshole to work with. So.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.